Welcome to this video. My name is Max, and as you might know, I got a series on this channel about Vue, Vuetify, and Firebase. Now, when I started this series, which you should definitely check out, Abe Haskins reached out to me. Now, Abe is a developer working on the Firebase team at Google, and he offered that he could walk us through some of the more advanced features of Firebase, such as how to structure your data or how to write database rules, and maybe give us an overview over Firebase. Now, since I was going to San Francisco anyways, check out the trip video on this channel too, I thought, why not take this opportunity? And here's an important thing. This is not a paid promotion or anything. I don't get any money for that, and that's not why I went there. I thought it would be awesome to talk with someone who really works on this product, which I use anyways. So, Abe Haskins, definitely follow him on Twitter if you like this Firebase series. This is his Twitter ID here. Invited us to Google. So why don't we take a closer look at Firebase together with him? So, hi Abe.
Hey Max, it's great to have you here in San Francisco at the Google office to talk about Firebase. I'm super excited that you could come out here to chat with us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us here. It's an awesome opportunity, and I think what's super important to people, what would be nice to know is what actually is Firebase and what are the core features, how can we use them, and what can we build with Firebase?
Yeah, so Firebase is a platform of hosted cloud services that are all exposed through simple SDKs. So if you're building on the web, these are mostly features related to your database, storage, authentication, running server-side code, things like that. So it's this whole suite of tools that you can pull together to really build your app without running your own servers or dealing with any of the complexities that come with security and authentication and things like that.
And what's really cool actually is that we got other cloud solutions too, like obviously AWS, but also the Google Cloud, but Firebase is based on the Google Cloud, right? But it makes a lot of things easier.
Yep. So we kind of look at it as Google Cloud is infrastructure as a service. Yeah. So if you need virtual networks and you need, NVIDIA GPUs and crazy complex computational power, go look at Google Cloud. But if you're building a mobile app that's dealing with a lot of the same things most people are dealing with, like signing users in, or storing data, synchronizing data, sending push notifications, all of these things, everyone does. So we don't need to make you reinvent the wheel on top of a virtual machine or your own server. We can just give you these services in a very simple, easy to use way. And if you ever need it, Google Cloud is there for you to step onto from Firebase to build up really complex infrastructure.
That's really cool, and we can actually have a look at it. I prepared a little project, but that's basically how every new project looks like in Firebase console. And for one, we can add it to different platforms like iOS, Android, and web, and you mentioned that. And that's a cool thing, that you can build one backend for all these apps, right?
Absolutely.
And the core features you mentioned are authentication, database, and storage probably, for web also hosting, and Cloud Functions. That's relatively new, right?
Yep. So Cloud Functions is our newest offering, and it's one of the most important things we've ever launched. Basically, we have all these different services that all were really, really good in their own right. So authentication, sign in a user, that's great. But you couldn't do much more with that. You couldn't send them emails that easily. Cloud Functions ties it all together. So if you want to send engagement emails, if you want to go and send a push notification, a text message, anything like that, Cloud Functions lets you do that without running your own server.
That's actually an interesting thing, because I started using Firebase or experimenting with it like 2 years ago, I think. And the one missing thing always was the ability to run some code when something happens, right? Well, for the real-time database, you could do a lot of things with rules we're also going to talk about, but Cloud Functions really is a nice little add-on to really have all the power.
Really powerful. And it's funny you said 2 years, because I joined Firebase 4 years ago almost, and we've been talking about making functions for 4 years. So it was amazing to finally get it out and just see it be the realization of what we knew everyone knew Firebase could be, and to get it out was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I believe that. So maybe we walk through the core features here quickly. So we got authentication. I actually already have one sign-in method picked here, but if you click on them, because basically you do provide a couple of different ones. I have email and password already enabled, which basically stores the user data, email and password on Google servers, right? So we don't have to manage them, we don't have to hash anything, secure anything. It's all encrypted and secure.
We handle it. All you have to do is call a function on your client, so in your JavaScript, say sign in, here's an email, here's the password. We'll let you know if it works. If it fails, we'll let you know that. You can just react to that. No dealing with any of these security ethics.
That's really cool because obviously getting security right is super important and super easy to mess up.
Oh yeah, so easy to mess up.
and it's nice because you mentioned it. Actually, we can have a look at it in code. I have a little application here. We do have the sign up code where basically I reach out to, that's an Angular app. I reach out to a service where we then use the SDK to simply use this create user with email and password method. And that's all right. We just handle the response for potential error here. And that's pretty cool because nothing else to manage for us.
Yeah, and this is one of those points where right now, this was old Firebase functionality. We've had email password sign in for years.
Yes.
But now, if you wanted to go and send someone a message as soon as they sign up, that's a cloud function.
Yeah.
You can go and say, all right, anytime a new user gets created, run this bit of code, do this thing, send me a message saying, oh, someone signed up.
Yeah.
All of that without running a server. It's so cool.
So that's a really nice first option. But if you need it, you actually have more options that you can use all these social sign-in providers like Google, Facebook, Twitter, GitHub, and what actually is anonymous and phone? Could you?
Yeah, absolutely. So anonymous is a classic one. That's been around for a long time. And the basic idea is that if you have someone come to your application, even if they don't sign in, even if they're not going to go give you their Google credentials or anything like that, you may want to know who they are when they come back. So it just flags them, gives them a unique ID, and says, all right, anytime this person revisits, they'll have that same ID. So you could give them temporary resources. You could just keep state for them between page refreshes and when they leave, come back next week, anything like that. So it's completely headless. They don't get prompted or anything. It just signs them in and says, you are anonymous user 422. And you always know that, so you can rely on that identity.
And we use the SDK for that too, to send basically a request to the Firebase backend, and that keeps track.
It's just one method, just like create user, but this one is signed in anonymously, and that's all it is. Yeah, it's very useful. It's a lot more useful than you think at first, because you're kind of like, why would that be cool? But anytime you're building something with like a trial mode or like a demo, you can write all this code that deals with authentication. It expects the user to be there as an object and have their identity. But you can just say, oh, this time they're anonymous. So everything happens as it would normally, but they're anonymous.
Yeah.
And one of the really cool parts, and this is more advanced about authentication, is that if you had a flow where someone comes to your website, they're trying something, maybe they're creating a document or something, you tie that to that anonymous user ID. Now they go and they say, all right, I'm going to sign in with Google. I really like your service. Generally, that'd be a really hard transition to make. You'd have to look at the anonymous data and migrate it or something when they sign in with Google. With Firebase authentication, there's one method called linking the credential.
Okay.
And when you do that, you say, all right, I'm currently an anonymous user, but I just signed in with Google, so I can link that. And now that anonymous credential and that Google credential both tie back to the same user. So if they come back, sign in with Google, it's the same person. And if they said, oh, I want to add Facebook and Twitter login as well, those can all tie back to the same credential, the same user ID. So regardless of how they're choosing to sign in, they're all linked together.
That's pretty useful. That's also called from the SDK. So
yep, it's all just in the SDK.
Okay, that's pretty useful. And phone, I guess, I saw it in Google I/O. It's a relatively new feature where basically we get a number, a key on our phone, which you can use to sign in.
Yep. Phone integration is part of us integrating with Fabric that you might have heard. We recently joined forces with the Fabric team from Twitter, and the phone authentication is exactly that. You enter a phone number, it texts someone a unique code, and they enter that code, and they're signed in. So they don't even have to have a Google account or a Facebook account or anything like that.
That's pretty useful too. And that's basically authentication. Obviously, there's more to it. We can specify like templates, which we send for email verification and resetting. And then once you get users, we can actually show that in the demo because it is set up. So we can use sign up, and which will just behind the scenes execute this method here. So if we enter some email address and some valid password there, or we try an invalid one first and click sign up now, and we actually get the error here because I am catching it here. So that's the default Firebase error message, which also is just a tiny thing, but it's nice that we get the final message here too. No error code we have to parse and then throw.
You just display the message directly to the user.
That's pretty useful. But if we then switch to the correct credentials, we're actually logged in, and you can now see it here. We refresh the users. That's the user generated. And that's actually user ID, which we can also get in the SDK to do whatever we want. And I'll come back to what we want later when we match it to database data. So that's the database. Next feature. Why don't you give us a brief overview?
Yeah, so the Firebase RealTime Database is a extremely simple real-time database. And that's not a term you'll hear a lot because not many databases have real-time functionality. But basically what this means is that if you have a client, you can use our SDKs to interact directly with the database. So you're not like calling a server and having your Node.js like write to Mongo and then writing an API. You're just talking directly to the database and saying, I want to put this data at this location. And any other client who's interested in it, so if you're building like a chat application, every other client who wants to know when a new message gets added can get updated in real time. So you're dealing with like asynchronous handlers instead of HTTP requests that say, go get the data. Are there new messages? No. Are there new messages? No. So it's this really clean, easy to use model for building up data.
Yeah. And what you said is super interesting because I actually get this question a lot in comments and in other areas that the question is, how can I reach out to your database from my Angular app? And the answer is you can't directly connect to a database.
Or you shouldn't.
Yeah, you can connect to a server, which then connects to the database and fetches data and sends it back to you. But that obviously requires you to set up a server. And if you want real-time integration, you need to use WebSockets or basically that and build it with that and set up that on your own or set up some polling where you'll send a request every second or something like that. And here it's super simple because the API is super simple to use. Here I get this listen to messages method where I simply use the sort of a reference, so that basically points to a certain part in the database, right? And then we just specify on every new event, I want to do something with the data. And that's super, super helpful.
Yeah. It's a completely different way of thinking about databases. If you've tried any of the other options out there, it's so much easier. Yeah. It's so much smoother.
We can actually show this too because we do have it here in the demo. So if I enter some test message here, now actually it would be cool if we put it side by side. So that if we now enter this test message, we actually see it appear here instantly, right? So that's also nice to know. It's super fast, right?
Yeah. And I mean, it looks like, I mean, we're dealing with two tabs on the same computer here. So you might be like, oh, it's, local, it's synchronizing back and forth, but that's not what's happening. This is going all the way to the data center from one tab all the way back. So this is a complete round trip, the same type of performance you'd expect if you were in New York and I was in Berlin or anything crazy like that. It's that type of speed.
Yeah. That really is super fast. So how are you doing that?
Maintained socket connections, heavily optimized protocols, a lot of things way over my head. All I know is that it works and it syncs my data very, very quickly.
Yeah, it does indeed. And we can actually see it the other way around. If I change it here in the database, like test message and add some exclamation marks, we hit enter. That's really amazing.
It's really fast.
You hit the key and it instantly updates. They're like, that's
generally we try to keep our round trip time under the threshold of human reaction time, which is about 200 milliseconds. So hopefully, if a change should be fast enough that you shouldn't be able to notice the delay. So it's pretty fast.
Yeah, it really is fast, and it's really fast and super helpful because just again, all I did is I used the database reference, then basically specify like a subfolder, like a tree in the database, you could say. Not a table, that's maybe interesting. We don't have multiple tables, right? We have like a JSON data scheme.
Yep, exactly. All your data in Firebase is JSON.
Yeah.
You can think of it as JSON. When you get it back into JavaScript or into any of your other apps, they're always native objects represented in a way that feels natural. So in JavaScript, that's always just a plain Java object. And if you're wondering what can I put into this database, what data types, anything you could store in JSON will be storable in here. And it's really cool because you can actually take any given piece of information in your database and get it back as JSON.
Yeah.
So if you're dealing with a legacy platform, if you're like, I have an application written in PHP and I wanted to use the real-time database, you can use our REST API and get back and talk in JSON and it'll send out real-time updates just as if you were using the real SDK.
That's cool. And where's this key actually coming from? So we didn't pass it there, so it's just related to how we pass it with the push method. So that's probably interesting too. We got two different ways of setting data, right?
Yep.
So which are these?
Yeah, so you have two real methods for writing data. There's actually three. So there's set, update, and push. Set and update are basically the same. The big difference is that you give a specific location. So I would say messages, message 1, set this value. And that exact location would get set to the value I gave it. Pushing is a little different. Because of the way the real-time database works, where we have one data source being written to by potentially tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of clients, we need to make sure that these unique IDs can get added and you can make lists where people aren't overwriting each other. Could you imagine if you had messages as a traditional array where your keys were integers and it's just like message 0, message 1, message 2? If you have things moving this fast and tens of thousands of people doing it, the likelihood you're going to be at message 4 and 2 people are going to try to write to 5 is really, really high. So what we do instead of using those keys is we use what we call push IDs, which is this crazy ID you see here, which are lexicographically sorted keys.
Okay.
Which is a really long way of saying if you push in a message later, it will show up later. So they act just like pushing onto an array, but they're sensitive to race conditions where you don't have to worry about race conditions as much. You don't have to worry about people overwriting each other. If 100,000 people push to the same location at the same time, they're not getting that same push ID. So every single one of those records is going to be there.
That's an interesting insight. So just not a random string, but actually a random string which keeps track of the order.
Yep. So it's really important. So if we're building a chat like this, if I push later, my chat message will be later in the chat.
So that's a nice insight. And actually now if we saw that before, but if we now want to read it, then in the SDK there will be the on method, and there also is an alternative, right? We can also just get one data with the once method. So technically on sets up an ongoing listener, and once is just get it once and we're done, right?
Yep, exactly. So once is a more traditional read. Right? You're hitting an HTTP endpoint, getting the data back once. It's not updating, not doing anything fancy. That's a once. If you want those real-time updates, though, use an on.
I guess we go into that how we use the SDK and how it works in a later video. Why don't we go back to the other features for now? Real quickly maybe, but storage, that's like just a traditional cloud storage you can also use in our application through the SDK. That's important to say. And the interesting part, which makes it not so traditional, is actually that we can easily upload all the files through the SDK again. So we don't have to split bigger files or do any multi-part order keeping and stuff like that. We just call a method.
Traditionally, file uploading is one of those things that seems super simple. You're like, oh, just take binary data and that's it. But it's super complicated. If you're dealing with mobile networks where people have flaky connections, the likelihood your data is going to get messed up is super high. So there's so many concerns that come with uploading things. And even once you get it uploaded, there's security to think about. What did they just upload to my server? Is this actually an image or is it some malicious binary? You don't know. So storage takes care of a lot of that. Cloud storage for Firebase will let you restrict what people are uploading. You can say they can only upload images that are so large. You can check MIME types to say it has to be an image. And you can say who can write where. So you can say, all right, this user has a directory that is their folder, that they can do whatever they want. They can upload anything, they can delete anything, rename anything, but they can't touch anyone else's data. So again, like that security aspect, that's so important. We take care of for you, and we give you a really easy way to configure so that your application lets your users interact with their data in the way they want. And this is all completely separate from everything else. So even if they did manage to upload some malicious binary, it's never going to influence your cloud function. Like it's not going to be able to get over there. So it's just a really clean, easy to use way to upload images, files, anything you want.
So it's stored safely away and not running on the same server where the database is.
Not even close.
And we can configure everything else here under rules, so we can.
You can lock down who can upload what, who can upload where, everything like that.
Cool. And then maybe to wrap it up, a quick walk through hosting and functions.
So hosting is super cool. Hosting is if you're building an Angular app that's entirely client-side, you're building a Vue.js app that's entirely client-side, you might be asking yourself, where do I host this? How do I actually get this public so people can use it? And you have a few options. People think of like GitHub Pages a lot, which is not the greatest solution, and the main reason is that it is a single server or a single point. Or it was. I actually don't know if it still is now, but for a long time, if you had a page hosted there, it would be one server, and if I was in Berlin and I hit that page, it would have to go all the way to wherever that server was. Hosting is a really easy way to deal with static sites that are distributed on a CDN. So if you have one site, you say, I want to deploy this using the command line tools we offer, and it sends it out to like 30 different servers, all in key points around the world. So wherever your user is, they're getting that app served to them as fast as possible.
Cool.
So it has that, and then it also has some cool integrations with functions and caching and things like that, so you can cache function responses, and it's actually really, really powerful. But in its simplest mode, it's just a great, great place to put your application.
Yeah, and actually easy to get a SSL certificate too, right?
Oh yeah.
Do you get one by default?
You get one by default, yeah. So by default, with no effort from you, you get something.firebaseapp.com. So it'll be your project ID. So ours here is like furchat75d32.firebaseapp.com. Yeah. That's great, but not very friendly. Yeah. So you can set up a custom domain. You just route it to us and say, all right, I want to use this domain. We get you an SSL certificate. We enforce that all your users use SSL. So everything is nice and secure, and it costs nothing.
No, that's really very useful. And cost is something interesting too, which we can talk about at the end. But just a quick look with functions. We had a brief look. You already said it. It's basically a place where we can run code in the cloud. Right now, I think only JavaScript code, right?
Yep. So you get access to a full operating system like Linux environment, but we only officially support Node.js. You can do crazy stuff if you really want to and like upload binaries and run them, but right now all our SDKs are JavaScript only.
Yeah. But which makes sense because I guess Node.js, since we work a lot with JavaScript these days, is like a nice language.
We wanted it to feel as natural to web developers as possible. Yeah. So if you are used to scripting up little JavaScript logic, it's literally like one extra line, like import our SDK into Node and then deploy it on up, and you'll get functions.
Yeah. So that's really nice too. Yeah. So finally, pricing maybe. Maybe we can actually see it here, right? You have three different plans.
Yep.
Like we're in the Spark plan. Every new project starts in the Spark plan, I guess. And then we have the choice between two paid plans. Either the Win, which has like a fixed capped amount.
Yep.
But when we talk about capped, it also will cap some other things.
Yeah, well, it'll cap your growth.
Yeah.
So if you say, I only have $25 a month to spend, that is my limit, and I'd rather have everything stop it. If it goes past that, you can use that fixed plan.
Yeah.
So it's basically like a very strong safety net. But the bad part is, if you do grow past that, you'll have to either quickly switch to Blaze or deal with downtime in your application. If you don't want that, and what is honestly cheaper most of the time is to use the Blaze plan, which is just pay as you go. Every Firebase feature is either free or has a tiered, or not a tiered, but a as you go usage. Yeah. So for every gigabyte of storage, it's this much. And almost everyone I've ever seen who is on the Flame plan should really be on the Blaze plan, because it's just you get a ton from like the ability to use less. If you use $2 worth of storage, or you use 5 cents worth of real-time database, that's all you pay for. With the Blaze, or with the $25 a month plan, you're always locked at $25 a month.
Yeah, that's indeed like an important thing to say, because I think some people might look at this and say, okay, here with the Blaze plan, I have the danger of paying too much. But actually, here with the Flame plan, you have the guarantee to pay $25 a month, and if you need more than that, you either cap, as you said, the growth of your app, which you probably don't want to do, or it's fine that you pay more because your app is growing, and then, well, it's good for you.
Exactly. And honestly, $25 a month is a ton of Firebase. You can look through this list, but a lot of these things are included for free. Things like Firebase Cloud Messaging are completely free, even if you send 1 billion messages a month. I run a bunch of side projects and apps on Firebase, and my total bill is in the double digits. I think I've spent maybe $15, $16 a month. Because all of these things are really designed so that you can get going easy, and 2 years down the road, when you are a really big company and you need more power, then we have more power for you. That's Google Cloud if you want to go there. But this is for young companies getting started, building prototypes and things like that. So you learn how great our ecosystem is, and that's why it's incredibly cheap.
Yeah, I agree. It's really nice option, and definitely one which allows you to grow.
Absolutely.
So that was a super nice introduction. Why don't we take it from there and have a closer look at the database?
Awesome. Yeah. Fantastic.